Newquay in Cornwall, home to the hardened surfer, and some rare Humboldt penguins. Although small, Newquay Zoo plays a big part in the international effort to save endangered species. It's also involved in an equally important partnership with a local school and its head of science, Jeremy Pollard.
We're going to see the penguins now?
Yeah.
Yeah, should we go and see Sad Sack?
My eldest son was born 4 years ago. And I mean, this is just such a fabulous place to come with young children. To start with, it's relatively flat, so you can push pushchairs around. But also, there's so much to see for little ones. There's all the talks that go on, and you can stand around and you can get to hold the animals and pet the animals. And the penguin enclosure has got some perspex windows at pushchair height. And I think it was the very first time that we brought him down, he was able to see out through this window. And my son just thought it was just fabulous, absolutely wonderful. He thought it was hilarious. And ever since then, he's been in love with penguins.
From his son's interest came a discussion with the zoo about how they might collaborate on a vocational GCSE course. Today, it's up and running at Treviglas Community College, one of 2 comprehensive schools in Newquay. Jeremy's pupils now share his son's passion for penguins.
First off, you're looking at chimpanzees and penguins. What are the features that make a chimpanzee and a penguin a penguin?
These Key Stage 4 pupils are the second year to take this particular GCSE applied science course.
The idea behind the piece of work we're doing at the moment is to study selective breeding. Now, selective breeding is not the most exciting of topics, but if you can do it in a practical context where it's actually being used, then, to my mind, the children are going to hang their learning on it that much easier.
Right, if I can have a little show of hands, who are the people who are going to do the writing? Right, okay, I think we'll start in the corner over here. 1 feature for each one. Go. Look at the board when you're writing, because it'll appear on the board. Hair. Hairy. Way. Hairy something. Ah, hairy all over. Sounds a bit like my dad, really. And something in hieroglyphics. 3 layers of small feathers. Who told you that,
Hey. Yeah, we need this already.
Nice one. Okay, right. Next group, gents.
But it's not all classroom-based. The new applied science course combines elements of biology, ICT, business studies, communication skills and physics, but it's vocational in emphasis. The zoo's education officer, Mark Norris, has a key role in delivering part of the course to students.
OK, welcome to the penguin pool. What we're going to aim to try and do is introduce you to our group of Humboldt penguins. Now, when you think of where penguins live, if I asked you to draw a picture of where penguins live, what kind of background would you have them in? Ice, sort of anything else? Water, the poles.
Quite nice to get out of the classroom and actually look at rough science and how it's done and all the inaccuracies and all the things which go wrong, which you never really get in textbooks.
No.
It's all cut and dried, and this is sort of wet, muddy, rough science, like it used to be when they were still discovering and exploring. So that, for us, is still exciting. There's still a lot of discoveries to be made.
So when we introduced Sad Sack into this group, he went and found a mate. And many people thought this was a bit strange because he went and paired up with a penguin called Craig. Now, knowing that Sad Sack is a young male, going and finding a penguin called Craig doesn't sound like the best breeding programme in the world. Luckily, Sad Sack is a bit smarter than we are, because Craig is a bit of a challenging little penguin. Craig was born here about 8 or 9 years ago, and Craig surprised us about 3 or 4 years ago by producing her first eggs.
This whole world of penguin genetics that suddenly just opened up to me. And one of the things is the stud book, the dating game for penguins, which is really quite a strange concept when you come across it the first time. And essentially what happens is that the penguins are passed around to all the different zoos around the world, and the idea is to mix up all the genes.
it's sort of selective breeding in reverse. The idea is how do you keep a penguin population genetically clean?
This is what an albino penguin looks like. Pure white, pink eyes, stands out very, very easily. Now, against the light background of the pool that we've got, he would be brilliantly camouflaged. But of course, out in the wilds, he'd be standing out really easily against a dark background. He does have his belly camouflage. If you were a killer whale and hungry and looking upwards,
Students learn that selective breeding and genetics is more than simply two-dimensional textbook stuff. They hear about Snowflake, an albino penguin who's recently died but remains an important example.
That was trying to find a hook, was actually trying to find one thing which actually made the genetics work, and I think that albino penguin was it, really. And I think that was a fabulous opportunity, you know, grabbing that opportunity which was there, this unusual news event, to actually kind of bring it all together.
You're all nice clean people down here. This is the fishy end of the group. Okay.
I think, to be fair, the whole way in which this has started has come about as a result of the changes in the specifications for GCSE, and the fact that you are able to deliver a smaller subset of the national curriculum for Key Stage 4 has meant that there is more time. Our traditional course is so full of content, and we have to deliver it in such a short period of time. It's almost impossible to get students out of school.
For those of you who've been handling fish, you probably want to get that lovely smell off your hands. So if you just head round to the side, there are some washrooms and toilets there you can wash your hands. I'll see you up in the top room.
The students from Treviglas are also able to study animals at first hand back at school. They may not have penguins, but there is the school tree frog, the school hamster, the school chinchilla, the school tarantula, and let's not forget the school snake.
We're a very unusual place as a college. We have quite an extensive menagerie, and they're looked after by primarily the younger children. At lunchtime we have an animal club, and we try to extend it to have examples of most of the animal groups, so that we use it for curriculum as well. We have 8 different animals here today, and the students have been observing these animals, and there's an information sheet next to each of the tanks that describes the habitat of the animal, and the idea is to match the features to the habitat, how the feature enables the creature to live better in its habitat, thrive in its habitat.
I don't know, maybe like as a sudden movement, or just to make them look more bigger than they actually are.
The Applied Science course at Treviglas College has been unusually popular with girls. Jeremy Pollard believes they particularly appreciate the vocational and hands-on aspects of the course, as well as the independent learning approach. Students seem to agree, whatever their sex.
We do a lot of work where we choose what we want to do. So we've got set work for each lesson. We can choose what we want to do depending on how we feel about it. It's a lot freer, and you feel like you're in charge, and rather than being taught all the time, you're sort of teaching yourself.
I had friends who took normal science and applied science in year 11, and the people who took normal science wish they had took applied science. The people who took applied really like it, so I decided to take it, and I enjoy doing coursework. And I like doing you get more practicals, and you don't have to do a specific type of lesson. You have a coursework and just do what you want out of the booklet and just make sure you finish it.
It's quite a good way of teaching the kids science. I think there's certain pupils that want to be doctors and nurses. They'll do a specific science course. The rest are going to do various other careers. And it's a way of teaching how science can be practically used. It's not sort of being rammed down their throat. They can go out on trips and see how hydraulics or levers and motion is used in, say, an agricultural loader, that sort of thing, and they sort of get good benefit from that,
Back at the zoo, there's also the chance for the class to decamp to the lecture theatre, where Mark Norris can consolidate what's just been demonstrated. Here the students are introduced to complex issues such as genetics, data collection and record keeping, creating a family tree, the ethics of population management, and captive breeding for conservation.
We kept it really, really simple. If it's a large A, this is a penguin who is a carrier for dark penguin markings for black and white. Okay, it's what they usually call an allele. Okay, it's part of the gene.
The college is delighted that several students have joined the zoo staff after finishing the course.
I think from my point of view, being a Newquay lad as well, is that they're going to go into the North Cornwall economy. You know, I have a certain amount of responsibility to make sure that the quality and the things which these students are learning through doing their courses at school prepare them for life in that local economy. And I think that the more that schools, the more that colleges, the more that local businesses, particularly I think businesses like the zoo, that have an educational theme to them, I think it's important for them to show to the students when they come around how important it is to see the link between the science which they might be studying and also the fact that the science doesn't live on its own. The science lives in the real world.
So this is the only one who's likely to end up looking like Snowflake, that albino penguin.
We also work with further education groups and higher education groups. We have our own degree programmes and FEB Technational groups. It's the kind of flexible learning science course, but very, very vocationally based, which some of these students will want to move on to. So there is that link locally, it keeps them locally, which for employment terms is fantastic. And hopefully just by being here today, they'll have seen us working. Some of them are interested in working professionally with animals, others will get interested in the business side. They might not think of it strictly as science, but the whole zoo is based on scientific principles, and it's fantastic to have a chance to explain this and kind of engage people. I know there's an urge to try and make people more scientifically literate, and they come here for fun, and you can slip that in whilst they're enjoying it.
Okay, I'm going to finish off by introducing this one. Now, I know some of you have got friends and cousins and relations who have ferrets as pets. You might have some people who actually go rabbiting with them. Now, if you had a standard dark brown and white polecat ferret, it would be very, very difficult with its camouflage to find at night. So this is why poachers favour these. Now, there is a slight problem being an albino ferret. You've been bred from albino stock for many, many years, which means you do have the pink eyes and probably your vision is not very good. But for an animal which hunts underground at night, do you think that's going to be a problem?
The more vocational education that I can get access to, the better as far as I'm concerned. The skills which the students get from this course, I think, are second to none. Particularly the skills about independent learning, being in charge of their own learning, putting things into context and realising that, you know, they're almost learning not by chance, because it's very definitely worked out in advance, but they don't quite realise that they're learning. They're having such a good time whilst they're doing it. And you've seen from the students, you know, this morning and yesterday how much fun they have doing this course.
So you'll go home smelling of fish, I'll go home smelling of fish and ferrets, so that's going to stop my breeding chances quite a lot.